I'm here in my Heptabase, and today I'm going to show you how I use Heptabase as a note-taking tool, or better say, as a thinking tool. When I first discovered Heptabase about 2 months ago, I read the description of the problem that they are trying to solve. And this description really resonated with me. They say that Heptabase can be used to establish a deep understanding of anything. And as a researcher, this vision really resonated with me, and I gave it a try. And since starting to use Heptabase, I now use it on a daily basis. But let's look further into their vision. They're referring to the knowledge cycle of exploring, collecting, thinking, creating, and sharing. While the exploring part happens outside of Heptabase, for example, when I'm researching scientific papers or on Twitter or wherever you are doing your research, the three middle parts of collecting, thinking, and creating can already be done in Heptabase. And today I'm going to show you phase one of this knowledge cycle from a perspective of a scientist. Phase one, collect your knowledge. As a researcher, I have to read a lot of scientific papers, and they can easily be organized in Heptabase. If you have the PDF, you can simply drag and drop it into either a whiteboard or to the card library, so it's that easy. Here I'm pulling a paper of mine into the whiteboard. Alternatively, you can go to the card library and you can simply drag and drop the paper here. In the card library, you have the option to only view the PDFs, and I find that really helpful. So you simply go here to card type and you toggle off the notes, and then you see all your PDFs. For example, I can let Heptabase show me all the PDFs that are not on a whiteboard and have no tag. So here's a simple rule applied that whiteboards are empty and tags are empty. And you can simply create your own rules. So I know these PDFs need to be further processed, because the nice thing in Heptabase is that your notes and your PDFs have a place to live in. It's not necessary, but I find it really helpful to organize my knowledge system. So here you can see that I have a few PDFs that I need to process further when I find the time to do it. When I'm now clicking into a PDF card, I can open it up in the PDF reader of Heptabase. And here I will show you short the functionality of the reader. You can zoom in and zoom out. You can fit the width, so you have the text on the whole width of your screen. I do not prefer this setting. So then you can do an area highlight. So if you have figures in your PDF, you can highlight it here. And then you have the highlight mode for highlighting text, and you will use that most often. You can also just simply select the text, and then you can also highlight in different colors. You can add a note to your highlight, or you can add it to a whiteboard. So for example, if I click this add to a whiteboard, here I can choose to which of my whiteboards I want to add that highlight. Then you also have an outline function. So if your paper has an outline, then you can go there, but in this case there's no outline. Then you can also go to different pages of your PDF and you have a search function. The most useful feature here is the option to highlight. In my workflow, I would first read the paper and highlight the important parts, maybe sometimes write a note, and then process the highlights later when I'm entering the next phase of the knowledge cycle, where I'm trying to connect my thoughts on the highlights on a whiteboard. Collect knowledge from Readwise highlights. Another feature of Heptabase is that it can easily integrate your highlights from Readwise, which is a service to bring together all your highlights from different sources, such as ebooks, online articles, YouTube transcripts, and so on. So here I'm in my Readwise account, and for example, I took some notes on an OpenAI site, so I can just click into it and see all my highlights that I did on the site here. And all these highlights that you see here on the right side will be automatically integrated into Heptabase. And in Heptabase, I will then further process all my highlights on cards and whiteboards later. Collect knowledge from websites. Another possibility to collect knowledge from websites was recently introduced to Heptabase, and you can open websites on the right sidebar and directly drag and drop text into whiteboard. So I will go to the split view and simply go to a website from the Heptabase website. And here I can also highlight text, and then I can drag and drop it directly to a whiteboard. This text is, however, a bit different to the highlights that I showed you before, as it doesn't show up in the Highlights Meta app, which I'm going to show you next. However, it's another easy way to collect knowledge. Except adding text from websites, you can also copy and paste images into your Heptabase knowledge base. So if I might want to save an image to Heptabase, I can also simply drag and drop it, and so it will appear on my whiteboard. The Highlights Meta app. So here we are in the place where all your highlights come together. The Highlights Meta app in Heptabase. Here you find all your highlights from PDFs and from Readwise if you are using Readwise, which I would really recommend if you want to build a digital brain of the content you consumed. So here you can browse through all your highlights, and you see I actually did a lot of highlighting in the last weeks. But when I'm now working to gain a deeper understanding of the topic I'm currently working on, I would open up a whiteboard. And here you can also see all your highlights on the right sidebar and further process your highlights. In my workflow, I would go through my relevant highlights and integrate them with my own thoughts on a topic. Alternatively, you can also search your highlights. Here, for example, I'm in a board where I'm trying to gain a deeper understanding of how to use generative AI in science. And for example, I here have a card on image generators. So I could, for example, search for the word image. So then, for example, I could click into this highlight and see all my highlights that I did on this Coursera site. And I would browse through these highlights and see which of them can add to this image generator card. Organize your knowledge. When you are collecting your knowledge, it is useful to somehow organize it. In principle, you have two ways to do that: whiteboards and tags. On a whiteboard, you have an infinite canvas where you can store your PDFs, highlights, and notes, which are called cards in Heptabase. Here, for example, I have a pretty well organized whiteboard where I have the collecting part on the upper part of the whiteboard, the thinking part in the middle, and the creating part in the lower part. But let's look into the part where I collected my knowledge. So all the green cards are already processed, and the white cards I still need to read or to process further. And I have in the left part all my resources, so that are mainly PDFs, and I have all my sources here. And on the right part, I have some more cards that I did on my own and that I then later used to make all these cards in the middle part. So this is a pretty well organized whiteboard, but to show you, I also have other whiteboards which are not that well organized, and that's totally fine as well for me. So let's look at this one. So here I have in the upper part all my PDFs that I read, and then I have the thinking part in the middle, and you don't really see anything because it's so small. But yeah, it's a different organization, not so well done as in the other board, but it is fine for me as well. So sometimes you might need to feel the urge to organize it well, as I did in the other board, and sometimes some chaos might be okay for you as well. And in this case, it was not important enough for me, this whiteboard, to organize it better. Another possibility to organize your knowledge is the tag database. For example, here I go into the tag database courses, where I track the status of all the courses I'm currently doing. And a great feature of the tag database is that you can create further properties for the cards that you tagged with a specific tag. In this case, I tagged several cards with the tag courses, and I created 2 more properties related to that tag, which is the URL of the course and the current status of having finished, ongoing or not started the course. In this case, I used the select and the URL property. And if you would now create a new property, you can decide between different choices like text, number, select, multi-select, date, checkbox, URL, phone, email. So if you know Notion, this should all look very familiar to you, and you also have a Kanban view, which you can use if you prefer that over the table view. One great feature here is that you can display a property in multiple tag databases. For example, here I have a tag database called Reading, where I'm tracking the reading status of different papers and workshops and books. And I have this property here called type that is displayed in this reading tag database. And it is also displayed in another database called causal inference, where I also have this property type. So the first database, the readings, I would track the reading status. And in this database, I would track the topics that I'm currently working on. You might now ask yourself when to use whiteboards and when to use tags to organize your knowledge. As I know that I've read something about that topic on the Heptabase website and highlighted it, I'm going into the Highlights Meta app and searching for the word tags. So here you see I have 3 highlights. And what does the Heptabase team say about that? They say if your main use case is learning and research, and that you have a clear topic from the beginning, you can create cards directly on the whiteboard. And that's also the case for me. So if I know I'm, for example, organizing a course or writing a paper on a specific topic, then I would use the whiteboard to organize all my knowledge. On the other hand, if your use case is more project management, like the case I showed you with the tracking of my reading statuses, then you would mainly use the tag database for that. And here's another highlight from the Heptabase website, and they say whiteboards and tags are like brothers. So whiteboards are mainly the space for free thinking, and tags are your organization system. However, I also showed you that whiteboards can be used for organization as well. So you have, for example, color coding, or you have different sections to organize your whiteboard. Conclusion. This was the first video about the knowledge cycle in Heptabase. I focused on the part of collecting knowledge. In the next video, I'm going to talk more about the next step, thinking. From my point of view, this is the most interesting step, as Heptabase with its whiteboard function is really made for developing your thinking. So see you next time.